So we're up to Samechei Amid Aleph, or the Mishnah that we went through described the protocol in the Beis Hamikdash. There were three groups: Kahal, Eda, Yisrael. Each group was of 30 people. They would go ahead. They would sing Hallel. Machlokas, who said the Hallel? Was it the owners saying the Hallel? The Levium saying the Hallel? Kahanim passing it back and forth, and they never said Hallel more than two times. The third time they got to Vahaftis Shishma, and the Mishnah went to a very elaborate depiction of exactly what occurred. So now it says Yatzakat Rishayna. Sure.
Your son yesterday was saying that, but same canal Nes, right?
Yeah, that it's the same kind of nest that the door should close.
Right, because so it's a question if that.
Do you have to close the door or not?
The doors. That was a way of telling everyone enough's enough, no more people.
Yeah.
The doors, but the whole base condition was same canal Nes. Everything there was in this.
Okay, so there's a really good kasha over here. You brought it up. I'll spend a little time on it. L'chayra, the whole thing was in this. You have so many people packed into this place, right? Right. Yeah, it was so so many people packed into this place. Mishtachim, right? So I have pshat like this. I think pshat's like this. This is based upon a Chassam Sefer. In the Beis Hamikdash, there's something that even though to us it's nest, for the Beis Hamikdash it's teva. So Lamashal, we know HaKadosh Baruch Hu is without form. He's incorporeal, right? He does. There's no form. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has no body. So if you look at the Aron, fellas, the Kachay Kadashim was 10 by 10. The Aron, if you measure from each side, was 5. I mean, the Aron didn't take up anything. You measured from each side of the Aron, measured 10. The Aron didn't take up any space. I think the Hezbollah is this is Hashem's abode, right? This is where Hashem lives. So Mamela Hashem is without form. The Aron also has no form. And that's the same thing with Zman, and that's the same with the Mitzias of people. In that area, the physical does not go ahead. It's not a nest. So that would deal with that issue. Over here, you're not dealing with any of that. You're dealing with the closing of a door. So therefore, that's are you samich that door is going to close or not? Says Rava ain't samich on a nest that it's going to close, and says Abaya, you would be samich on that. Now my son's question was, how could you ever be samich on a nest? And I'm not sure I really have a good answer to it, but that was Moshe's question. But again, it could be that it's a nest vis-a-vis the rest of the world, but in the Beis Hamikdash, maybe it's like Yankel saying it wouldn't be considered a nest to the extent of Moshe that you could be samich on it. Maybe to the extent where it took place, maybe you could be samich on such a thing. In your house, my house, it will be a nest to go ahead and have the door closed. But there, it's not so much. Even though, but Gemara calls it a nest. Again, it's not a good teretz. But again, it seems to be. But the kasha is asked by some Seifa, what nest are you talking about? Ain't samich on a nest. Be just standing there as a nest. And I think the teretz is like, he gives that teretz. I'm just embellishing it a little bit, Okay, now, so we said the Kat Rishayna went out, and the Kat Shniya came in, Kat Shlishis came in, and they all, what went on there? Tana. He nikris Kat Atzlanis. The last group is called the Kat of lazy guys. I'm on Samechei and Aleph. I am three lines from the top. Samechei and Aleph, 3 lines from the top. So that last Kat is called the Kat of Atzlanim. Someone's got to be last, right? Someone's got to be last, and more than that, and you need 3 kitois. Kahala das Yisrael. We said you need 3, so it's not pshat that you don't have to be last, right? You need to be 3. Says so. My have little never. What should he have done? Says my filuhachi boile le zeruze nafshayu. He should have gone ahead and be mizaras himself. Kedetani Rabbi Yomer yef shaloylam b'aisem. It's not, the world can't exist without perfumers. You need people who are perfumers, like Bursi, and you need people who are tanners. Now, I've never smelled a tannery, but based upon that, and Bismana is there, I couldn't smell it anyway because I haven't got. That's it. You ever get back? No, totally. I don't make a bar mina b'sam. I can't. I don't smell a thing.
I had that Shiloh originally. They said if somebody else smells it, you make it for the neighbors.
No.
You make Havdalah, you don't make a bar.
I don't know who you asked, but it's not.
Apparently the wrong guy.
On Yom Kippur, on the bris on Yom
No,
Kippur,
it's the bichas hanena. You have to have enough from it. You have to have the reach.
Even if
You have,
somebody else
you have to have the reach. You have to have the reach. So again, it's not ma'akiv the havdalah. Havdalah is the mavdil. We make it because of Yisham Yisera, whatever the Torah is, and you make a bar mitzvah was created. But either way, we know neither one is ma'akiv the havdalah. The raya is on yantif. You just make a bar pekafen and havdalah. But you can't. If you want to go ahead and smell it because you have an Yisham Yisera, make your own bracha. But I can't. But I also told my wife she should make it, but don't make it just havdalah because it's not part of havdalah.
She has smell.
But she can smell. She never lost the smell, but I lost
You
it.
have to keep introducing smells to your nose, like physical therapy.
I do. Have in school. Someone gave me these essential oils. Not so essential. And it was the Gemara.
I saw what smell Pesach tomorrow. Guy gave me a smell.
Anyway, so you have perfumers and you have tanners. So, now, Ashrei Mishum Daslei Poison, better to be fortunate is the one who deals with perfume, and Oili Mishum Daslei Bursi. It's not possible to have. You need males. You need females. Ashrei Mishum Banav Secharim. Fortunate is the one whose sons are male children. Oili Loi Mi Shebanav the Kevais. The Gemara in Daf Kuf in Sanhedrin says that a man is always worried about his daughters. He's worried about they shouldn't chas v'shalom physically be attacked, and also worried about marrying them off. And that seems to still be part of life, right? The marrying of children. So that now, right? Now, what did they do? They would go ahead and they would fill up the azara with water to go ahead and cleanse out all the blood. There's a tremendous amount of blood. So they go ahead and put water in that azara to cleanse out the blood. And the Chachamim weren't happy with it. The question is, what did they do wrong? The Chachamim weren't happy. What were they happy with? Who weren't they happy with? What were they doing that was so wrong? What were they doing that was so wrong? So they want to know what's going on over there. Says the Gemara, man, who's unhappy? Who's unhappy with what the Kohanim did, filling up the azara with water and washing it out? Rav Chisda Rebbe Eliezer. We're not the Ratzon of Rebbe Eliezer. Di Rabbanon ha'ami shvusu. They say it's a shvus. Ve'ein shvus b'migdash. It's only the Rabbanon. And what? And there's no the Rabbanons in the Beis Hamikdash. Now let's see who they are, and then we'll go back and explain exactly what was said. Let's see who they are. The Tanya is the Brisa. Maihi. What's the who are these Rebbe? Who's the Rabbanon? Echad hachaylev, someone who milks an animal. Machabet, someone who makes he curdles. He puts the milk in to curdle it. Hamagabed, you're making cheese. You're pushing it together. Kigroigris, the shear is kigroigris. Now, guys, everyone holds that's the Raisa. That's the Raisa. Hamachabed, someone who sweeps the floor in his house. Hamarbetz, again, they had dirt floors. The dust would come up. So they sprinkled water on it to keep the dust down. Hamarbetz, Vaharoy the chalois devash, and someone who disattaches the honey from the comb. B'shoigeg b'shabes chayev chatos. So you see, it's a wad. It is a midaraisa, or else you wouldn't be mechayev chatos. And hezid b'yontif loika. If you did it b'meis on yontif, you would get malchus. Like esaboyim. Rebbe Eliezer, these are the words of Rebbe Eliezer. So you see, Rebbe Eliezer holds, guys, the key we need over here is hamachabed. Machabed is you're going ahead and smoothing down the floor. We saw, guys, in Masechta Shabbos, you might remember, this is a tolda depending where you do it. If it's in the field, it's a tolda of chayresh. In your house, it's a tolda of boine, because you're mashve gumais. You're going ahead and you're leveling it off. You're leveling it off. You're mashve gumais. The Chachamim Maimed, echad zeh, echad zeh, whether you are mechabed, you are going ahead and sweeping, or marbit, so whether you are going ahead and putting water on it, they agree with the choylev megabes and mechabes. They agree with that. The first thing they agree with is the raisa. The only machloikis is on the last three, right? Eina ela mishum shvus. That's only an isser is on mishum shvus. Okay, so now when it says they weren't happy in the Beis Hamikdash, because pashtus by sweeping out the Beis Hamikdash with water, you're being over on Rabbi Eliezer. And Rabbi Eliezer, it's their Isa. So they weren't happy with them doing that. Whereas the Chacham said it's only the Rabbanon and Ein Shvus B'Migdash, so they did nothing wrong. So therefore, when they said they weren't happy according to the Shita of Rabbi Eliezer. Rav Ashi Amar Afilu Temer Shlei B'Ratzon Chachamim, Reb Nassan he, and who is the opinion that they're not happy is the opinion of Reb Nassan. The Tanya Reb Nassan Omer Shvus Tzricha Hetiru, Shvus Shein Tzricha Lo Hetiru. We had this at the end of Erevin, guys. A shvus that is you need. Then we say Ein Shvus B'Migdash. A shvus that you don't need, we would say, and this was unnecessary to go ahead and clean out the base of Mikdash at this time on Shabbos. You could do it after Shabbos, and therefore, when it says they weren't happy, you're not limited to saying it's Rebbe Eliezer. You could even say it's the Chachamim and the Shita of Reb Nassan that a shvus that is not necessary they weren't happy with. There's a good kasha over here. Look at Tosfos, guys. The second Tosfos on the page, in the middle, right before the lines get wide, about 8 lines up, it says Tema L'ri. The first word on the line is Ri. Tema L'ri. Heichi mitokum mastis and Rebbe Eliezer. How could you go ahead and say the Mishnah is according to Rebbe Eliezer? The Azara fellas, there wasn't a dirt floor. What did they have? It was a stone floor. And l'shayach bei ashva gumais. V'afilu lechatchila shari kidam b'shilam atzniya. Fellas, if it's a floor, that's why us it's not negayah. Anyone can sweep a floor in our house. It's a tile. It's linoleum. I'm dating myself, right? It's linoleum. Huh? No. What do they use linoleum? Linoleum. They use.
No, they still sell the copper stone.
Anyway, and I'm saying, but it's not shaykh the whole problem. You're not being mashvagum. It's not smoothing out anything. So Fred Tosfos, good Rebbe Eliezer holds mechabetz is a din deraisa, but in the Beis Hamikdash it's not even a shvus. It should be mutar lechatchila. So what Tema Fred Tosfos Akasha? What's going on over here? So Enfit Tosfos, go to the first wide line. V'omeri the bazara bein roivid leroivid hayagumais, between each block. In other words, it was tiled, but there was in between them there were gumais, and therefore what they could go over them. Inami or else the Rebbe Eliezer the Iki Sur the Raisa bekiba the Alma Gazrin Azara at the Kiba the Alma. And just let me finish with this. According to Rebbe Eliezer, who says it's Shayach what the Raisa by Kiba would be Goizer Afilu by Avanim. It would be a shvus by in other words, even though the Raisa is only what when it's a wood an earthenware floor, but since we have a floor that is dirt, is the Raisa, the Goiza the on a Avanim to go ahead, and you can't do it because you may have to do it on a regular floor. So to Rutzim, either there was earth there, or even if there wasn't earth there, you'd be Goizer, and that's why we're going to Rutzim. Yes.
No. It's stone flooring. It was the whole modern system. How they got the blood, they had to like lift they had to lift the stuff so the blood goes out to the canal.
No, it seems to flow out. It seems the water went through. They would push it into the canal and it would take it out. Okay. Anyway, so l'chara we have two possibilities: either Rabbi Eliezer or Reb Nassan. Rabbanon calls Reb Nassan. Rabbi Yudah Mekayis Hayim Malay. Okay. Let's look at the last line of the Mishnah, guys. On the Amid Aleph, right? On the Amid Aleph, Samach Dal Amid Aleph, 4 lines in the bottom, 5 lines in the bottom. Rabbi Yehuda says, "Kais hayim amalei midama taruvis." They would take a cup and they would fill the cup off from the dam of taruvis. They would put the cup into the taruvis and zorku zvika achas al gabi mizbeach, and they would throw one spritz on top of the mizbeach. And the Chachamim weren't moida. Good. So that's what he did. You know, see, picture based on Mikdash. How many kabbalas do you think there were, guys? We said yesterday. How many was it? We said yesterday. 1,200,000. 1,200,000. You know how much blood? A lot. It's crazy amount of blood, right? Crazy amount of blood. So they would take a cup, and it was full of blood. They put the blood one thing, and they throw it on. So what's the purpose of that, right? So we're going to go ahead and explain that sheet of Rabbi Yehuda, what exactly occurred over here. Rabbi Yehuda Kais Hayim Amali. Tanya. Rabbi Yehuda Kais Hayim Amali midama taruvis. They would go ahead and take a kais and fill with the dam of all the mixture of blood. Because if the blood spilled out of one of them, now there's the second avoida of dam is called kabbalah, fellas. If you would shecht an animal and the blood would fall directly on the floor, you can't use that dam. It has to be a kabbalah. It has to be received in a kli. So right now it seems that it's going directly. It says Shem Yishbach Damai. This is the issue of shvicha, that it's going directly from the neck of the animal into the floor. Says the Gemara. So how in the world could you go ahead and take blood from the floor that were not received in a kli that went directly on the floor? It's also to use that blood. Says the Gemara. Mino yoda. How do you know that what? That it went directly from the animal. How do you know? Maybe it wasn't received in the kli. That you wanted machshir, maybe it wasn't received in the kli. Rabbi Yehuda said to them, I know I'm only speaking about something that was makabel b'kli. In other words, it spilled after it was in the kli. After there was a kabbalah, if it spills, you could use it. So I'm not speaking where it went directly from the neck of the animal into the floor. It's speaking where it went from the kli, and the kli before the zrika fell. The kli before the zrika fell. How do you know without a shadow of a doubt that there was a kabbalah? Maybe it spilled from the neck of the animal, and therefore what? Your zrika will not help, will be worth nothing. Says no, the Kahanim are very diligent, and therefore it's not possible for them to do a shechita without a kabbalah.
None of the blood got out. When you shecht an animal, there's blood going everywhere.
Yeah, no, but you just have to have the kli over there.
The vessel will catch every drop of it.
But no, you don't have to catch every drop of it. But you have to make sure that what you're doing is what you want to go ahead and correct is it didn't have a zrika. That means it was in the kli, and that kli never made it to the mizbeach. Good. How do you know that maybe it's taka spilled directly from the neck? Kind of the reason they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't shecht an animal without having a kli right there. They would have again. Kabbalah is dafka kahanim. Shechita can be, we said yesterday, with Yisrael. That's what we're saying. Kahanim's reason. Kahanim would not allow a shechita without someone being there to makabel the dam. Good. So therefore, they makabel the dam.
Like a horse, they put the chicken under the bone. It's the same idea.
I wouldn't know. No. Anyway. Who's a kabaris is a mitzvah, not a minig?
The same rabbi that told us someday you can smell the tongue.
And they want to know why he never comes back. You know, he comes back once in a while. It takes some time to recover, to come back to be abused some more.
I come back and I find out everything was wrong.
Anyway, and it says the Gemara, it's being Adam's reason hang. Fred the Gemara is the reason of my mishtapit. Right? Guys, you know, without a shadow of a doubt that they were makabel, right? Because there's reason, yeah? But it didn't get to him his bath to the Zrika. If there's such reason, say they spritzed it also. And it would be unnecessary to take the kli and put it in the taruvis. And for the Gemara, Agav Sayu, the of the mishtapich. You know what happened? They talk about the Kabbalah. But in their haste to do it correctly, to get it on the mizbeach, maybe it again, you're talking about a massive amount of animals, guys. Crazy amount. So in there had to be maybe something that spilled. So came along Rabbi Yehuda, I got an eitzah. I'm going to take a kli, stick it in all that blood, and if any one of those blood was there, I'm going to throw it on. Dam tamsis mu'urav boy. You have dam tamsis that's mixed into it. Okay, fellas, the Gemara in Zvachim discusses. We had this earlier. Dam tamsis is the blood that comes out after you shech. It trickles out, then you have it shoots out, then it stops and it trickles out. The shooting out is the only blood you can put on the mizbeach. That's the one that's mischaper. Most of the blood that's called dam tamsis, literally the blood that is draining blood. Draining blood is the majority of the blood, and you can't put it on the mizbeach. Read the Gemara. What did you gain? Most of that blood there is going to be what? Dam tamsis, and that you can't put on the mizbeach. So how in the world what would Rabbi Yehuda gain anything by sticking this cup and throwing it on? You're throwing on blood that should be thrown on in the first place, and it's the majority. It says, and for the Gemara, Yehuda l'tamei, damar Dama tamsis dam al Yehu. Rabbi Yehuda says dama tamsis is dam al Yehu. Now we know one thing about dam. Besides that, there were blood libels throughout history, right? But we know that dam is a chi of karis. Dam nefesh is a chi of karis. You get karis for eating it. Dama tamsis, the chacham holds a lav. Rabbi Yehuda says dama tamsis, guys, is karis. So when Yehuda says dama tamsis is karis, he's equating it l'chayru with dam hanefesh, and therefore you should be able to use it as a for zrika. Rabbi Yehuda tamei dama tamsis dama al Yehu. The Tanya dama tamsis be'ashara. Dama tamsis is a lot. Rabbi Yehuda oimer bihi kares. It's with kares. So now the havmin of the Gemara is, since you get kares, you could use it as a kapara. So memela, it would help to go ahead, take your cup, put it in the tarubas there, and throw it on. Fred the Gemara, 1 second. You're not out of the woods yet. Even though he holds it's a din of a karis, if you go ahead and eat damatamsis, nonetheless, fellas, what you would not be chayiv, you would not be yoitz yichiyah with damatamsis. Shneimar ki adam hu hanefesh yichaper. The dam of the nefesh yichaper. It will be mechaper, meaning it's got to be dam nefesh. Dam sha nefesh yoitzeba, dam that the nefesh would go out in, which there's five. The Gemara describes 5 types of dam. Dam sha nefesh yoitzeba mechaper. Dam sha nefesh yoitzeba eina mechaper. So holding on to kasha, guys. Now, why did you gain? Okay, let's go. You have a bunch of blood on the floor. We said it's not, most of it is damatamsis. Damatamsis l'chayra is mevatel, the other one, right? It's the majority. So why did you gain by throwing it? You want to try to tell me damatamsis is karis and it's the same as dam? You can't, because even if Yehuda's moida, only dam and nefesh can be a kapara, and the whole reason for this reek is kapara. Kapara here means that it should be a good carbon pesach. It's not kapara atonement. It's not here for an avera. It means for the purpose that it's brought. So over here, l'chayra, it's brought for that reason. Why did you gain? The majority is damatamsis. And for the Gemara El Rebuda Tamei, Rebuda goes according to his reasoning. Damar ain dam mevatel dam. Dam is not mevatel dam. Fellas, outside, this is a very big yisoid. We've had it before. Rabbi Yehuda in all Dinei Taruvis holds min v'minoi loy batel. You have 2 things of the same gender; they're not batel. There is no roiv by min b'minoi. He says it by dam. He says it by dam. He says it by, for example, he says by Yom Kippur. You have the dam of the seir and the dam of the par. You put it together. It's considered as you put both on. Why? Because ein dam nevatel dam. Right? He says it over here too. There's damatamsis here, and the majority is damatamsis. But you also have damanefesh. There's a majority. Min v'mino, they're both bloods. Ein a bottle. And that's, no, it's the lashon of ein dam nevatel dam. In the fancier way is to say, min b'mino, the same gender, loy bottle. So that's why Rabbi Yehuda, and only Rabbi Yehuda, would hold, you have this eitzah sticking it in. Because even though the majority is damatamsis, it's not mevatel the damanefesh that you require for the kapara to eat these. So, Tanya, Amalei Rabbi Yehuda l'chachamim, l'devreichem, according to you, that you don't go ahead and take a cup and put it in the tarub's blood and throw it on. Lama poikikin is azara. Why would they stuff up the azara? Again, there was a canal that went through the azara. They would stuff it up. Why are they stuffing it up? Must be to get to accumulate all the blood there, right? Must accumulate all the blood. So Bishlam, according to me, in order to ensure that everyone to get this like final eitzah to take care of problems, we want to stuff up the azara to ensure that what? You're going to get a lot of blood. But according to you, who say you don't do that, why in the world are they stuffing up the azara? Why are you doing that? And for that, says the Chacham, I'll tell you why. I'm aloi shvachu lebnei Aaron sheyelchu ad arkavoseyim bedam. It's praiseworthy to the sons of Aaron who would go knee deep in blood. Praiseworthy bnei Aaron who would go knee deep in blood. So, what are you laughing? No, yeah, but you're not going through any blood. You're going through kodesh of blood. No, we had guys. We had the Gemara with Rav Yisachar bar Karpoi, but he was the guy who would kohen, who put on his hands silk, and he did the avodah, even though it's a chatzitza, And even though he didn't want to get his hands dirty, pashtas, and he ended up, the king cut off his hands. He cut off his right, cut off his left, bribed the guy, cut off his right, and he ended up handless, right? So we see that's the opposite of what? It's chaviv to say that the kohen gets a little dirty, gets down and dirty, because again, he shows his chavivus and mitzvahs. So therefore, that's the reason they read poikik, not because the blood to go ahead and spritz it, but to show how chaviv they are. Now, Heshi asked a good question yesterday. Why? How can you let blood accumulate there? Isn't it a chatzitza? The kohen's feet have to be on the ground. They have to be on the azara. You can't. That's why they're barefoot, right? They can't wear shoes. They can't. So how in the world you have so much blood accumulating? The blood will be chatzitza between them and the bottom. Furthermore, look, and for Gemara lachu, it's lach. It's wet. Something that's wet is not a chatzitza. Kidatanya, hadam, v'hadayoi, blood, ink, v'cholov, and milk, v'hadavash, yiveshim, if they're dried, chaytzitzin, they're chatzitza. Lachim, if they're moist, ain't chaytzitzin. So chatzitza is not a problem. But you do have another problem. The kohen's garments getting dirty. How could they do the avodah with dirty garments? The hal kamis vase ma'anayhu. Their garments will be dirty. Vitanya if his garments are dirty, for avad, and he does the avadasai psula. So how in the world could, if the avodah is possible with dirty garments, you're going to have up to their knees in blood and the garments? So forget about the problem. You have a problem with begodim. You'll say the that they lift them up and therefore they don't get dirty. But Tanya, midoy bad, midoy kimidasai, shliachsav layoser. It has to be exactly custom fit. Midoy bad, it has to be measured. It shouldn't be too big or too short. So therefore, you got a problem. It's got to be their full length, and obviously, what they're going to be getting dirty, and that's going to possibly avoid them. And the Gemara boy lecha seivarim lekevesh. Where are we speaking about that they would either pick up the garments or they would be knee deep in blood when they would bring the avarim to the kevesh to be burnt on the ramp, which is the lav avoidahi. It's not an avoida, so it's not an avoida, then the garments could be dirty. It's not an avoida, but the boy kahuna avoidahi. When it requires a kohen, obviously it is an avoida. Now, how do you know it requires a kohen to bring the avarim, the limbs to the kevesh, to the ramp? The Tanya, and the kohen brought everything to Mizbeach. It says v'hikr kohen, and so you see near the kohen. So back to square one, guys. It can't be speaking where what he's transporting the limbs to the kevesh. That was also an avoida, and you have a problem of them getting dirty. So how can they go ahead and stuff up the azara to accumulate the blood? The garment's going to get dirty, and it's going to possibly avoida. Okay. They're bringing wood to the maracha. The lava avoidahi. Or Fred the Gemara about lecha seibon lekevesh blechas dam mia hechi azli. So he's bringing the etzim to the maracha. That's not an avoida. Now, when he brought the avarim to the kevesh or bringing the dam, how in the world could they do that? That isn't an avoida. They're getting dirty. So I answered Heshi yesterday. Mia hechi azli. They worked on little platforms. Rashi says, it's taboy shel binyan haya. These were little platforms part of the binyan. Right, guys, it's very important. They have to be attached to the ground. Pirish. The kohen can't have anything. He has to be in contact with the ritzpah of the Beis Hamikdash. So picture this. You go like this, go up, up, up. And there must have been a lot of them because the Kahanim were standing. How many Kahanim were standing there?
Rabbi, these things that they were standing on, the chari had to be made out of stone, right? Because you couldn't have wood in the.
I think they were part of the Beis Hamikdash.
So
they were part of the ritzpah.
They would have had to been made during the shomer time, no? The shomer would have had to cut it. Otherwise, how could they cut it?
Shomer was around in Bayesheni.
Okay.
Shomer was around in Bayesheni. We saw a taste for somewhere. It was on a numbered base. I forgot where. Among 2,700 odd blot. It's somewhere.
So the iron wasn't around?
The iron wasn't there, but the shomer, it's Master Shomer was there. The shomer was there. Now, in answer to your question also, I'm not sure that you don't need the shamir. I think the shamir is only the mizbeach. I think when they would cut stones for the binyan itself, they didn't have to use the shamir. I think only for the mizbeach. Yehuda, you hear?
One that was used to make them as there.
In other words, he's asking, so you had to have the shamir around to make the floor. Mehecha tasted that the floor can't be made out of what? Out of regular stone. That was used. It's only the mizbeach.
Because anytime you need to repair the base finish, you have it. You know what I mean? Whatever you need to repair, something broke. Like the floor, the crack, there's a crack in the floor.
Yeah, I'm saying. Yeah.
It's not only the Caleb, right?
Oh, okay. Ketzad told them Shitin. They would go ahead. They would use either there were hooks or there were sticks or arms. Murim. They would go ahead and rip out the imurim, nastim b'megas. They would put it in a dish, lahaktiram, to burn them. The guy who did the hefshit over here, the guy who cut it out is a Yisrael. He's not allowed to burn it. Burning is a kohen. Says Gemara, Ema, don't say he burnt it, but Ema lahaktiram agabi mizbeach, for the purpose of burning it on the mizbeach. But of course, the actual burning was performed by a kohen. Yatzakat Rishoina, Tana Kolecha V'Yecha Noised Pischai Ba'oiroi. Each one put the Pesach on their back. Umavshal Achayrov and Amarav Ilish. That's his name. Amarav Ilish Tayoris. They look like Arabs. So it's amazing to me sometimes you see an innocuous piece of Gemara and how people can bring out such interesting halachas over here. Fellas, do you remember we had a halacha about Hesach Hadas, that if you mesach das from something, you have to worry it became tamei. You have to be thinking about it all the time. So how could they put the carbon pesach on the back where they can't see it? Aren't you worried about Hesach Hadas? Yeah. So that's why it says they put it in the skin, because the skin is not. You never gemar malacha on the skin. Says Ramei Simcha Yer Sameach. Since there wasn't gemar malacha on the skin, you don't have to worry about even kabel tuma. You don't have to worry about Hesach Hadas. It's a brilliant shot, just in the back. You don't see it. You don't see it. You don't see it's behind you. The whole thing's behind you. The whole thing's behind you, right? So he's medayik. That's why it said dafka b'oiroi, because oiroi can't be mekabel tumah, so there's no problem. Hesach hadas. Hajnolach tam nishchad, hajnolach tam nishchad, hajnolach tam nishchad. Okay. Elu dvarim b'Pesach doichenes Shabbos. These are the things on Pesach that go ahead and push off Shabbos. Shchitasa, you're allowed to shech the carbon Pesach on Shabbos. Srikas dama, you're allowed to do srika on Shabbos. There's nothing wrong with that in the first place. Umicha kravov, you're allowed to go ahead and clean out the intestines to get rid of the excrement that would spoil it. Faktoris chalavov, you're able to burn the chalavim on Pesach. Aval tzliyasai, but broiling the carbon Pesach, v'adachas kravov, and washing the kravim innards, einan doichenes Shabbos. These are not doiches Shabbos. These are not doiches Shabbos. Har kavasai, let's say the animal you're walking and it can't walk, carrying the animal, or bringing it outside the tchum, or cutting off a wart, either using your teeth and or your hand, which would be mutter. This is only shvus. Ain't doichenes Shabbos, they're not doiches Shabbos. Now these are all shvus. Har kavasai is chay noises atzmai. A chay is alive; it carries itself. Coming out chutz tchum madirabanan, except the opinion of Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Akiva, and cutting off the abellis, you're doing klachiyad, you're doing it with your hands and or your teeth, so it's a shinui. So these are all shvusim, and nonetheless they're not doiches Shabbos. Rabbi Eliezer disagrees. Rabbi Eliezer says doichen. Rabbi Eliezer says in fact they are doicha. They would be doicha, and he has the following svara using a kal v'chaymer. Amar Rabbi Eliezer, v'halaydinhu, that these things that are only a shvus, the rabbanon, should go ahead and be doiches Shabbos. Ma'im shchita, shehi mishum malacha. Shchita, which is a malacha, one of the obvious malachas is netilas neshama. Shchita is you're killing the animal. Doiches Shabbos, nonetheless, it pushes off Shabbos. Elu, cutting off a wart, carrying an animal, coming out chutz l'chum. Shehi mishum shvus, which are only shvus, lo yitchu as a Shabbos, they shouldn't be doiches Shabbos. Ma'adach, the rice is doiches Shabbos. Certainly a shvus is doiches Shabbos. Yeah, kal v'chaymer. Rabbi Yeshua says, Rabbi Yeshua, I'll disprove you kal v'chaymer. Any pircha, any question destroys the kal v'chaymer. Yontif yochiach. Yontif will disprove you. Yontif will disprove you. Shehitiru boy mishum melacha. It's mutter du melacha. You're allowed to cook on what? On Yontif. V'yasa boy mishum shvus. Yet these things that we mentioned would be asa. These things that we mentioned, it would be asa to bring an animal from the tchum. All these things. So despite the fact that the cooking is permitted, we still bring it outside the tchum or cutting of the abelis would not be permitted. So what do you see? You could have a deraisa and the shvus still be intact. So who are did by Pesach? You can check the Pesach and the shvus are bringing it from outside the tchum or carrying it is still intact. That's what Rabbi Yeshua told Rabbi Eliezer. Amle Rabbi Eliezer retorted Rabbi Eliezer, Maza Yeshua, Ma Raya Rishus LaMitzvah. What's your disproving? What are you telling me? You're telling me midaraisa Karban Pesach, you should be able to shech. Why? It's the raisa. Shvus also should push off because it's the rabbanan. Says Rabbi Yeshua. 1 second. Look, you could cook. You're able to cook, and it doesn't push off yet. Nonetheless, you can't do the shvus. Says Rabbi Eliezer, cooking is not a mitzvah. Cooking is rishus, and therefore, since it's rishus, it doesn't push off the rabbanan. But shchita, which is the raisa, din should push off what the shvus. So L'chayr says very good to him. So Amalei Rabbi Eliezer, Maza Yeshua, Ma Raya Rishus, the cooking on Yontif, the mitzvah of shechting the Karban Pesach. So Heisha Rabbi Akiva was there obviously. V'amar Hazah Toichiach, the spritzing of Para Aduma, Shehi Mishum Mitzvah, Vehi Mishum Shvus, Ve'nedoches HaShabbos. Af Ata Al Titama Al Elu, Shafa Pi Shem Mishum Mitzvah, Hei Mishum Shvus. Guys, you're tummy tumis mace. What's the protocol of getting tahar? On day 3 and 7th of Yituma, you have paraduma water spritzed upon you. You took the ashes of paraduma, you mixed it mayim chaim el keli, and it was sprinkled upon you. Let's say it falls out on Shabbos, your 7th day. 7th day falls out on Shabbos, and it's a shvus not to be sprinkled paraduma. It's guys, why? It's a shtickle tick in mana. It's a shtick like makav patish. Why? You're making this guy. This guy's not complete, sort of. He's tamei, right? So they were guys are shvus. You can't sprinkle paraduma on Shabbos, fellas. It's Shabbos, Karban Pesach. If he doesn't get sprinkled upon, he's going to be tamei, and he won't be able to eat from the partake of the Karban Pesach. Nonetheless, we say you don't sprinkle him. Nonetheless, we say you don't sprinkle him. So you see, b'mokam mitzvah, eating the Karban Pesach, a shvus such as sprinkling still stays intact. So that will disprove the Kal V'chomer of Rebbe Eliezer that your shchita of the animal, despite the fact that there's a shvus, it doesn't push off the shvus. Let's see the lashon again.
Isn't that because you could always do Pesach Sheni?
Again, it does. It's not Pesach Sheni is people who can't bring Pesach Rishon, but it's not because I don't think they do that for that reason. Again, we're going to see the guidelines of Pesach Sheni, whether this will work or not. I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think that if the head is only shvus, it should l'chatchili you should be able to bring Pesach Rishon. I don't think it's a default. We don't let you. Oh, since you have Pesach Sheni, we won't allow it. I don't know if that's. I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but I'm not sure. Says the Gemara one more time. So Hesha Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva now tells Omar Hazah Toichiach. Hazah will disprove your Kal V'chomer because I'll show you there's a mitzvah, and nonetheless it doesn't push off the shvus. Your whole din Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Eliezer is predicated upon what? A din deraisa should push over shvus. I'll show you it's not true. Shehei mishum mitzvah. The Hazah is a mitzvah. What's the mitzvah? You're going to bring a Karban Pesach, and if not. V'hi mishum shvus tikin mana. Ve'ena doiches a Shabbos. Afata al titama al elu ashaf al pi shehei mishum mitzvahs. That even though bringing the Karban Pesach and carrying it from outside the tchum is for the purpose of performing the mitzvah, the Heimishim Shvus, la yitchu es a Shabbos, it won't be dach Shabbos. Now be aware, as this is Rebbe Eliezer the Mila. Rebbe Eliezer the Mila, remember Rebbe Eliezer said, you can go ahead and you can bring the knife. You couldn't make the knife. Even though these are things you could have done before Yontif, Shabbos, and you didn't do them, you're permitted to do it on Shabbos. And we saw the Gemara, and they said that in the place of Rebbe Eliezer, they would know like Rebbe Eliezer. No person died young. There was no chorus. No person died young. And we even saw a Tosfos in the Fidal in Yavamis that said they Afka would not bring the knife. There wasn't a bid the ever the psak. They would, they would leave it to show to do it. That in the Mokum Eliezer, that was the psak. So this goes along with Rebbe Eliezer's things. These are machshirei mitzvah, bringing the animals, machshirei mitzvah, outside tchum. These are machshirei mitzvah. This is his shita of machshirei mitzvah is also doicha Shabbos. Just like machshirei mitzvah of Mila is doicha Shabbos, not just the actual Mila, who had been machshirei Korban Pesach is doicha Shabbos. So this all fits in one big umbrella of the shita of Rebbe Eliezer. But right now, Rabbi Akiva has answered Rabbi Akiva very good. He's shown him, despite the fact it's the mitzvah to bring the Korban Pesach, if it means have hazah done on Shabbos, which is only a shvus, we won't allow it, which destroys his kal v'chomer that said, just like the shtita deraisa, kal v'chomer the shvus. Comes along Rabbi Eliezer.
He says the opposite.
Oh yeah, Rabbi Eliezer. Done. Guess what? Based upon you, I'm going to make a new kal v'chomer. Uma em shtita. Shehi mishum malacha doiches haShabbos, hazashi mishum shvus. Ein edin shedoiches haShabbos. I'll put it in the same hopper as carrying an animal and bringing it outside the tchum. It'll be the same thing. Same thing. So I'm Rabbi Akiva. Oy chalaf. Guess what? Okay, let's go the other way. Now, Rabbi Akiva is going to tell Rabbi Eliezer something he knows to be not true, but through it, the logic, he's hopefully going to show Rabbi Eliezer why he's wrong. Now, be aware. Rabbi Eliezer ben Huknis was Rabbi Akiva's Rebbe. So he's using a means of telling his Rebbe something in a very how should we say respectful. There's a word for it. In who? Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, delicately, or very in a very subtle. That's the word I was saying. Subtle, a subtle way. So Amal Rabbi Akiva. Oy chalaf. Let's go the opposite way. Ma im hazah shehi mishum shvus ein doiches haShabbos shchita shehi mishum malacha ein din shlei tidches haShabbos. Guys, ma doiches shvus is the rabbanon's not doicha. Certainly the raisa shouldn't be doicha. So maybe you should be able to shecht. It's you, Rebbe Eliezer, saying the following. Guess what? Since you can go ahead and bring it outside the tchum because shchita is doicha. So even hazah should be doicha. It's only a shvus. Shchita should be doicha. So says Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Akiva, okay, let's go the other way. I say you can't go ahead and bring it outside the tchum. I say you can't bring it on your shoulders. I also say you can't do hazah. So maybe then you can't shecht. So then maybe you can't shecht, right? Maybe you can't shecht. So says im hazah she mishum shvus ein doiches haShabbos shchita she mishum malacha ein din shlei tidches haShabbos. So Amalei Rabbi Eliezer Akiva. Akrata, you have uprooted Mashakasa b'Torah, b'Moyadai, bein b'Choil, bein b'Shabbos. You bring the Korban Pesach, b'Moyadai when it's time, bein b'Choil, bein b'Shabbos. So Amalei Rebbe. So said Rabbi Akiva to Rabbi Eliezer, Rebbe, Havali moyed la'elu k'moyed l'shchita. Give me a moyed la'elu k'moyed l'shchita. Pirish. Just like Shchita's Pesach has his man kavua, right? Anything that has this man kavua and you can't beat it, meaning that you could do it at this time, you have to do this time, then it'll be doicha. But something you could do beforehand that's not as man kavua, then not. So let's see Rashi, guys. Havli moed le'elu sheyezman kavua lehen. There should be a zman kavua for these shvusim k'moshe kavua l'shchita, just like it's kavua l'shchita, which is only yud dalet in the afternoon. Hilkach. Since it's not set a time, it doesn't say when you have to bring the korban to Yerushalayim. It doesn't say when you have to go ahead and make the knife. That's all understood that you could do that beforehand. All these beforehand, right? You're comparing to shchita. Shchita is different. You can't shecht any other time. Shabbos, Yudal, the afternoon, done. That's it. So in other words, after all the dancing around, he's getting to the point. This is the point. Havali Maya Le'elu, all these shvasim, like this, like you dalit in the afternoon, and I'll be masking that you would be doicha. But if these things can be done beforehand, they're not as man kavua. It's not you dalit in the afternoon. Then, in fact, it's not doicha because you should have done it beforehand. You should have made sure your Pesach there beforehand. You shouldn't carry it. You should bring it outside the tchum. Amalai Rebbe, Kabali Moya Leilu K'moy L'Shchita. Chalam Rebbe Kiva, Kol Melacha She'ef Shel Asois Erev Shabbos. Any melacha that's possible to do at Erev Shabbos, ain't it Deiches Shabbos. Shchita She'ef Shel Asois Erev Shabbos, Deiches Shabbos. Shchita, which is not possible to do Erev Shabbos, that of course is Deiches Shabbos. Exact same Gemara in Mila. Exact same.
So how come only did they